welcome our next guest, New Yorican, indeed, Ramon. So Ramon, welcome to the Trend Talk.
Thank you for having me.
We love it. So let me tell you, I just watched the pilot and I cannot wait to see more. I think, one of the interesting things when you have a show that goes from book to screen is that people have all these preconceived notions. How are they going to mess it up? Like, they don't even give you the shot of like, how will they get it right? Right. What really attracted to you to it? And did that kind of at all play in the back of your mind of like, this is what we have to get right, y'all?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I hadn't read the books yet when they came to me with the project. I wasn't aware about Karen Slaughter's novels. I dove into them immediately, and I just was obsessed about this guy and his story and what he's been through and how, he's been able to get past or work through, not get past, but work through a lot of this childhood trauma, growing up in the foster care system, being abused. And make his way up as a special agent. And in the GBI, like, what a resilient human being. Now he's not perfect, but, he's like figured it out. And what I loved is how he presents himself. He comes up with the 3-piece suit. He makes sure, but beneath all that, there's a lot of vulnerability. There's a lot of stuff that the guy's sort of struggling with. So I liked all the different kind of facets and colors. And being able to be on board with the project early on and coming on as a producer, I wanted to make sure that we definitely get some of this, the things that are in the book, we want to try to honor them without a doubt, because it's got a following and they're great books. But at the same time, I knew, okay, we're adapting and we're interpreting this for television. So, for instance, it's not just one case, like her book might be one case for a whole book. We're going to be mixing it up and bringing in some other cases. We'll bring in some stuff from other books. But I think the characters, Will and Angie and Faith and Amanda and Betty, we're gonna try to really keep those and honor them as written.
Name?
Special Agent Will Trent.
Ooh, fancy.
I just want to get on with my day. I rescued a dog. You folks rehome animals, so rehome. This is a no-kill shelter, right?
I mean, mostly.
I love that. Now, speaking of Betty, which is your fur baby, she's very much a star. So coming on as a producer, how did you all decide? Was that hard to even find the perfect Betty?
We went through a process, let me tell you. We saw a lot of dogs before we ended up with Belle, who plays Betty. What you said is spot on, which is we want, there's something about this guy who didn't receive help, right? Wasn't adopted, wasn't chosen, was left behind. And I, like you, when I first read that scene, which was always in the pilot, I was like, I love this guy. Like, doesn't want the dog, wants nothing to do with it, really. Wants to get on with his day and his life, but he can't leave this dog. There's no way. And right there, I was like, okay, we see the heart in who this guy really is. Because he presents as pretty tough. He presents as off-putting at times. He can say the wrong thing. Doesn't have the best social skills. He doesn't necessarily care what people think about him. But he's got this heart that it's undeniable. And we get to see that in that first episode. But yeah, I wanted, he is a Southern gentleman, and there's something about him that's kind of elegant and timeless, but he's also got he's just got a lot of stuff going on. And that, to me, to be able to tap into that and try to peel those layers back throughout the season where we get to see what he's got going on, that's fun to play.
And you know what, speaking of someone that has a lot going on, you yourself do, as we're peeling back these layers, as you mentioned, this is you're coming on just not as an actor, but a producer. How did you get here? And what is this? Does this one feel different? Because even watching the pilot, I felt the energy different I was like, oh, no, this is definitely going to be a showstopper for him.
Well, I hope so, and as an actress, it's a lot of work, it's so much work, it's so competitive, and even more so as a Latino or Latina, I want to find those roles that are compelling and interesting, and I want to break misconceptions and stereotypes. I don't want us to continually be seen in certain ways, and so, being in a position where I can help do that, not only as an actor, but as a producer. Our writer's room is beautifully diverse. We have a Latina right now who's directing this episode right now, de Colombia. It fills me up. I can't even tell you to say, okay, And by the way, the writers that I'm working with are very mindful of that, and I'm grateful, and they're very collaborative. You know, I wasn't going to do this job if I wasn't going to be able to have a voice in this process. That mattered to me, to be able to come in and say, okay, not only am I acting, you know, what is our writer's room going to look like? What's our cast going to look like? What's our crew going to look like? I want to make sure this looks diverse and represents the world we all live in. And if I could provide opportunities to folks that look like me, absolutely.
Before we go, I really would be remiss as a fellow artivist myself, which is what I call being both an artist and an activist. You know, during the pandemic, I spearheaded a project to raise money for the farm workers of the United States and Puerto Rico. And I love what you've done for Puerto Rico, for the island. And I'd love to know where you're at with 100 Roofs, and if you could tell people about Philanthropy or how they can get involved, because as you know, Puerto Rico has gotten hit yet again this year, and it has a special place in my heart, and I really want to hold space for that.
Thank you for bringing this up. All my family's on the island. You know, my mom and sisters that I grew up with are in New York City, but my dad, uncles, brothers, aunts. So in 2017, when Hurricane Maria, you know, really hit our island hard, I was desperate to try to find a way to help. I was actually in New York City shooting The Affair at the time. And so I really felt helpless. I was like, I can't even go to my island. I'm watching the social media, I'm watching the news, and it's just absolutely devastating. I hadn't heard from my family in like 2 weeks, no word of how people are doing. And luckily I had a friend of mine who's a firefighter go and volunteer with this nonprofit called Heart 9/11. And Heart 9/11 is comprised of first responders, doctors, and they volunteer and they show up wherever there's a disaster. And so my buddy told me and introduced me to the president of this nonprofit. I fell in love with them. I went to the island when I wrapped the show and got to see them at work. And we became real deep partners where we started, like you said, the 100 Roofs Project. We've completed over 400 homes on the island. We started an apprentice program that expanded throughout the island. There's now a local carpenters union that didn't exist before that we have there now in Puerto Rico. So it's an amazing thing. Now, as you know, like the island has gone through a lot. We had the earthquakes after Maria, we had Fiona. The beautiful thing, though, is we do know we've trained a lot of people there, and we're trying to continue to expand it. So if people do want to help or donate or learn more, they can go check out Heart 9/11 on their website. I think it's heart911.com.
I love it. Well, thank you again, Ramon, so much for being here with us. And we look forward to seeing where Will and his adventures take you.
Un placer, mucho gusto y muchas gracias.
Now, remember to follow us on social media at The Trend Talk Show. And remember, if it's trending, we're talking.
Llenos de